Hey, Big Bulls, welcome back to another edition of Bullseye, where we got three very interesting stories for you.
We talk about is Titan's shine fading or there's more room to glow. We talk about if MTNL is back on the line, and we also talk about the curious case of Dr. Agarwal's and Dr. Agarwal's. So if there's one stock everyone wishes they could have grabbed when Rakesh Jhunjhunwala did, it is Titan, right? Because when he bought it around 2002 and 2003, that was just at around 2 rupees per share. But now obviously the share price has gone to over 3,500 per share. This is made like a star performer in his portfolio as well, right?
Well, not for everyone's portfolio in the recent past, because if you look at Titan's stock price in the last 1 year, the stock is down 4%. And on the other hand, the Nifty 50 index is up by around 8% in the past 1 year, which shows a very clear underperformance of Titan.
Right.
And not just that, in just the past week alone, Titan shares have fallen by around 5% after it announced its Q3 results, where there was a big miss.
Right. But, analysts are still a bit on the stock, right? So why is there a sudden decline in the stock?
So let's break down what they actually announced in the
Right.
recent quarter. If you look at the top line, which is the revenue, there's been a 25% revenue jump. But the bottom line or the profit, that is what has dropped. Now, the company, if you ask the company says that it is due to a custom duty related loss. What do they mean by that? So, a few months ago, the Indian government had come out and reduced the customs duty on gold, which naturally meant that gold prices or importing gold would become cheaper and gold prices actually fell. But Titan had a bit of inventory that was stocked up, and that inventory they purchased at a higher price. Now, finally, over the past few quarters, they've been getting rid of that inventory, or rather, they've been selling that inventory to final consumers. So they've acquired it at a higher price, and now they're having to sell it at a lower price. So that is the customs duty related loss that they're referring to, or that is what basically hit their margins. But Titan's management does say that as of this quarter, they've fully realized all the losses that comes with this customs duty change.
Right.
So things should hopefully get back on track for them. And that's why even brokerages such as Macquarie, they remain positive on Titan's growth, because if you actually look at jewelry, there was a 21% jump in studded jewelry sales. And people have been worried about lab-grown diamonds actually coming in and taking away some of Titan's revenues. So there's some bit of positivity on that front.
But gold prices have been hitting, new highs every day. So that might cause a concern for the purchasers, right? Because they wouldn't want to buy metals at such high prices anymore.
Absolutely. So a lot of global gold price is actually driven by jewelry demand. And if you look at Titan 2, 87% of Titan's revenues comes from the sale of gold.
Right.
So its watches and everything else makes, in a sense, a tiny portion of their overall revenue, right? So any changes in gold prices trending upwards, if it does pinch the final consumer, that could put a roadblock to Titan's growth story as well. And if you look at what the management is saying, and I'm going to quote, it's MD Venkatraman who said this in the recent earnings release. He said, "We started very well in the few weeks of January. However, after many developments in the international space, especially in the US, that's created a lot of excitement on gold price and the dollar. As a result, I think there's a lot of noise, and it is very difficult to predict how Q4 will go." So when the company themselves is very unsure of Q4, you can see that investors will also react slightly negatively, even if brokerages are bullish about the long-term growth story of Titan.
So now that we've spoken about Titan, I want to talk about MTNL, right? Net worth of MTNL is negative as on 31st March 2024 to the tune of around 20,000 crore, which are obviously negative, right? This is what MTNL's auditor wrote in the 2023-2024 annual report.
Okay, so MTNL is this telecom player. We know
Right.
that there's been pressure on telecom, but how did it get to such a dire situation? What went so wrong?
Right. So, MTNL's issues came from this growing debt. They were struggling to boost revenue as they were obviously not getting that market share that they had to kind of adapt to these technology changes, right? And it's a PSU company. So, obviously, they take some time to kind of get adapted to all the changes, right?
Right.
And to stay afloat, it had to borrow heavily, which caused its debt to rise over 26 times of its annual revenue.
Wow.
So much so that by August 2024, its debt hit around 31,900 crore, which is again 2.8 times of its total assets as well, right?
Mm.
Now, even the government started pouring a combined of rupees 3.22 lakh crore to revive both MTNL and BSNL, which is another struggling state-owned telecom company, right? Since 2019 in three phases.
Mm.
But of course, that did not seem to help. And again, as I mentioned, that outdated tech, which led to subscriber losses, losing market share, that led to their finances also be in bad shape. And MTNL started defaulting on loans, right? And after that, it was labeled as a non-performing asset by most state-owned banks in last October.
So it sounds very gloomy for MTNL, but this week the stock also hit an upper circuit, Saloni,
Right,
of 20%.
Right,
So
right.
what really sparked that sudden growth spurt, or the share price spurt that happened?
So there's this optimism around MTNL's asset monetization plan by FY26, right? This was fueled by Arunesh Chawla, who is the secretary of DIPAM. He said that government is planning to monetize assets, and this will help MTNL and BSNL unlock value, clear liabilities, and also boost the sector. Now, this he said during CNBC TV18's budget verdict discussion, right? Now, this also seems to be a part of the government's asset monetization plan, which helps to raise funds for infrastructure by selling all these public assets, right? In budget 2025, also finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman, she had set a target of around 10 lakh crore for the asset monetization plan for 2025 till 2030, right?
Right.
Even another news channel, that is CNBC Awaz, they also reported that telecom minister Jyotiraditya Scindia, he confirmed that MTNL merged with BSNL on January 1st, 2025. Now, this was after they had approved the merger process in 2019.
Right, but I know I said 20% higher and it hit the upper circuit. But then today, which is the Thursday that we are
Yeah.
recording this, the stock is down nearly 10%, right? So I guess it's all just part and parcel of the market sentiments that, happen when there's news announced and then it kind of settles in, right?
Yeah. And also, I think everyone's now the wait and watch mode as to if it happens and when.
Right. All right. So moving on from MTNL, let's talk about the case of the two Dr. Agarwals, Saloni, right? So Dr. Agarwal's healthcare, it listed on the stock exchanges this week. Market value of 12,500 crores. It raised around 3,000 crores in the IPO, a small portion of which was used for debt repayment, right? And the remainder was an offer for sale. It went to the promoters and the private equity investors in the company. But also, it's a stock that didn't quite catch the investors' fancy when it came for the IPO. And retail investors and HNIs had subscribed to just around 50% of the overall IPO.
But there's already another Dr. Agarwal's listed, right? So is it the same?
Well, it's just, as they say, it's same, but there's a difference, right? There's a difference over here. The one that just listed is Dr. Agarwal's healthcare. This is considered the holding company.
Okay.
Or the parent company, however you want to call it, right? The one that was already trading on the stock exchanges was Dr. Agarwal's Eye Hospital. This is the subsidiary, and the holding company or the parent owns a 72% stake in this listed subsidiary, the one that was already trading. And this Eye Hospital share has had a phenomenal run in the past couple of years. 2023, from the start of 2023 to the end of 2024, that is during those 2 years, the stock had zoomed by over 450%.
Right. But what's the key difference between both the companies?
Well, if you ask the CEO, and this is what he said, the difference is that most of the legacy hospitals in Tamil Nadu are in the listed subsidiary,
Okay.
the eye care, right? The eye hospital. While the centers outside Tamil Nadu and in Africa are part of the holding company.
But why are both, companies even listed separately and even running separately? I mean, is there any plans to kind of merge them?
Right. So this came to our attention when the Ken published, a wonderful article this week, and in that they said that the holding company, was created simply because private equity investors weren't interested in just the operating company for the eye hospitals. So they set up this structure to raise money, and everyone won out of this.
Okay.
But there is actually, like you asked, there is actually a plan to now merge these arms in a share swap. So both of them will be merged. So there will be a share swap that happens. And this will simplify management and boost the overall efficiency of running the company. And so soon enough, this confusion over the two Dr. Agarwals should be sorted for investors.
But for investors, is there something to remember?
Well, so the company is making plenty of money. It is growing at nearly 30%, or it's growing 30% compared to the previous year. But the parent is valued at 22 times its EBITDA, its earnings before interest, tax, depreciation. And as per the Ken, this is quite a high valuation for a healthcare company. Most of them don't trade at these kind of valuations. So it's about the company. Will it be able to sustain these multiples? It might seem a little bit of a word of caution that investors have to think about. Also, Dr. Agarwal's eye hospital, the one that was already listed, I said it had a meteoric rise, but in just the past month alone, right during the run up to this its parents' IPO, the stock has dropped by 32%. So the big question over here is, will the share swap actually be in favor, or will it be fair for the minority shareholders in the company? So I'm guessing that's putting some bit of a negativity around the listed companies as well. All right, and that's a wrap for this edition of Bullseye. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share this with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon so that you know when the next episode drops. We'll see you next Thursday.